It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. Thanks a lot for joining us on the show today. Yes, there's a lot still happening around the country. Politics is heavy. More candidates are declaring. Still so many rumors about who is left to join the race. This first week, the biggest conversation, of course, was on the prize for nomination forms across parties. And the APC, of course, made the headlines the most, considering how much candidates have been told to pay for expression of interests and, of course, nomination forms. It's got a lot of people talking, wondering how this is going to play out when candidates win and what that entails for the fight against corruption. We're going to be delving into that as we start the show today, and I have here with me Demola Olanrewaju, who's a political strategist and member of the PDP. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much, Ebuka. It's been a pleasure to be here.
So, I mean, a lot has been said over the week. There were a lot of jokes even about, whether we're not going to move the fight from not too young to run to not too poor to run because of the sort of figures we have seen. PDP, for a lot of people at this point, seems to be the lesser of the evil because of the fact that maybe the prizes that we've seen with the PDP is significantly lower than the APC, but it still doesn't necessarily make it approachable for a lot of people. What are your thoughts on the pricing of nomination forms? Do you think it's a healthy way? We've heard that it's a way for parties to raise money. Is that really what it is? And what does it say about when these guys get back into office? Because we all know how much their salaries are supposed to be when they get into office, right?
Yes. For me, I think it's basically a reflection of the economy. Things are expensive for men, things are expensive for women, they're expensive for young people, and it's also expensive for political parties. The PDP, of course, is trying to ameliorate it in a way by not going as exorbitantly as it could as a major political party, and that's why you have the presidential pegged at 40 million. And then, as you come lower, it's also comparatively lower than that of the other major political party. House of Assembly, for instance, is 600,000 naira. That's what you're expected to pay. So that's still within the reach of a lot of young people who have an aspiration. But, the 40 million is just a reflection of the economy. The party, things are expensive in terms of the logistics of organizing convention, in terms of, the logistics of moving people around and actually organizing for the presidential aspirant. So it's a reflection of the economy, and PDP is doing its best to manage that. Of course, you have to wonder why 100 million naira in the APC. I'll just say that, APC is being affected by APC's handling of the economy itself.
One thing I think a lot of people have wondered, why sell forms in the first place? Why are we paying for forms? What does that do? What does that mean?
Well, I think it's, you have to, there's a certain level of commitment that's expected from you as an aspirant, and that's what it means when you buy forms. Of course, a lot of the charges goes to, you have delegates to organize. You're bringing delegates from all over the country. You'll be taking them to a particular location to vote, and these things cost money. With the IBB transition in 1993, it was basically government funded. Government was providing the venues for the political parties, but now there's no party doesn't have money for those kind of things. So it's basically these monies that are being used to do those kind of things, and the bigger the party, the more the number of delegates that are expected, and the more the logistics you have to put into it. So that's really what it is. But having said that, I, of course, don't understand the rationale behind going as high as 100 million. Some have said it's a sort of barrier, to put a barrier and not make it an all-comers affair. For us, we have about 15 aspirants already, people who have picked the forms at 40 million naira, and that shows that, well, it's still, within the reach of some people in the society. But basically, the funds are used for the logistics handling of the entire presidential conventions. All
right. I mean, we can see some of the graphics on the screen now, just to show us what this different seats cost. For both parties. But we're going to go to Abuja now. We're joined by Risola Abiola, who's a youth and gender advocate and a member of the APC. Risola, thanks for joining us. And I think Just to get your perspective on things, because it's been quite surprising for a lot of people, and a lot of people have called out Mr. President in particular, who was at the meeting where this decision was made, especially because in 2015 it was very public knowledge how he talked about having to get a loan or whatever it was to be able to afford the presidential ticket nomination, I beg your pardon. 8 years down the line, he's endorsing 100 million naira for the same ticket. How does that get justified?
Okay, so I would say that I listened to Damola's comment earlier talking about economic factors and all of that, but I would want everyone to recall the fact that in 2015, I believe the cost of the nomination form in the APC was higher than that of the PDPs, and I believe that was a function of where both parties were at that time. And presently, we cannot compare where the APC is with where the PDP is in terms of people who want to vie for the party and the standing of each party when it comes to the ability to actually win the election. So I think, yes, it's simple economics, but not in the way that Demola puts it. It's a matter of demand and supply. We have more people trying to vie for this office on the platform of the APC. And we also know that the party is much stronger and much better positioned to actually win the presidency come 2023. Also, parties are funded through the proceeds of from nomination forms, like when we had during the convention and now that the general elections are coming around. And definitely parties need funding to be able to get their job done. They need funding to be able to get their work done. And I think one thing I'm particularly happy about is the fact that young people and women have been granted concessions when it comes to buying nominations when it comes to buying nomination forms. For women, all we have to pay is the cost of the expression of interest, and the nomination form is free. And for young people, our national youth leader has been able to secure a 50% discount for all aspirants under 35. So those two constituencies have been taken care of, and you know, it's part of the party's efforts to ensure that the forms are largely more accessible to people in underrepresented groups.
So I hear you, but I mean, I can also draw a conclusion from what you said about, because there's so many people vying for it, you put the price as high as possible. It almost gives the impression that the highest bidder is the person who's going to get it, right? As against who's most qualified. So who has the most money is going to be the candidate?
Okay, so I'll say this here. I'm a young politician, and I know for a fact that when it comes to elections and when it comes to vying for political office, a lot of aspirants are able to get support. And I think anybody who is qualified to run for president is somebody who should be able to raise the funds that they need, whether it's to get the nomination form or to actually run the campaign. So, for instance, Asiwaju had somebody tweet almost immediately when the price of the forms was announced that he would be signing a check for his nomination form. And I expect that anybody who is vying for president at this point should also have that kind of structure behind them where they don't actually have to use their own funds. It is not expected that people necessarily have to do everything that politics entails with their personal money. And it's very important that we also, you know, develop that culture of crowdfunding. So a lot of aspirants have people who are backing them. And even if they're not able to buy it with personal funds, it's money that they should be able to raise.
Come back to you. Let me come to you now, Demola, because this has been a talking point for a lot of Nigerians, you know. We've had issues of godfatherism for a very long time. And I'm hearing now that, I think the APC youth leader, or women leader, I believe, had said in a program not too long ago, referring to Davido, saying, if he was able to raise 200 million naira in less than 48 hours, nobody should complain, or young people should be able to do that. Which is weird, because Davido is Davido. Not everybody has that sort of clout. But my point is, if we are going to say, okay, anybody should be able to raise that kind of money if you're going to want to run for office. We're hearing that the Electoral Act has even raised the bar of what electoral funding can be. You know, you go into office now, there's obviously debts being owed, which has always been a problem for a lot of people, saying politicians get in there and they have to pay back these debts over 4 or 8 years and literally have nothing to govern with. Are we not making matters worse with all of this?
Well, I think it's basically a reflection of the economy and where the economy is presently. It's expensive for political parties, but political parties still have a responsibility to make sure that they put their best foot forward, and not just in terms of financing, but also in terms of your ability to get the job done. For me, it's not as direct as one would expect, because look, how many people have access to the millions that we are talking about? But then again, you have to be realistic and say, let's make it better for some people, which is what the PDP ended up doing. And I'm happy, that APC also, made concessions as regards women and young people, which the PDP also did at that time. But a number of people are also running on the PDP platform, which shows that basically the 40 million is expected that, at a certain point in your life, if you're running for president, then you should be able to do that. But I think, for me, it's a reflection of the economy. Things have become more expensive. What it says, about the APC is perhaps, they have access to some kind of funds, which runs into hundreds of millions for their, aspirants to be able to come out in that way. But I'm sure, a lot of Nigerians are looking to see, who is able to pick these things, because people are going to, everyone will say, oh, it's not coming from me, it's being crowdfunded by people. But then that also comes back to what you were saying about godfatherism. If people are buying the tickets on your behalf, that means that you might perhaps be more beholden to those people than to the people, than to the vote to the electorate. So if you are saying a House of Rep member is going to be paid 20 million in the APC, I believe, about 40 million in the APC, which is what, the presidential is costing here, that person might have to run to a godfather. So I think, it promotes godfatherism. The best thing to do in that situation is to understand that, yes, things are more expensive even for political parties, but we don't want the polity to become, to be held hostage by godfathers. So you take a middle ground, which I think, is what the PDP has done.
Yeah. Let's leave the funding for a bit and just talk candidates now and talk about the PDP. There's been a lot of drama, about zoning. It has probably been the most talked about thing with regards to the people declaring and what the party wants to do. I think it was even yesterday I saw the governor of Sokoto State said he's stepping out of the Northern Coalition because no agreement has been reached. So even sectionally, there doesn't seem to be any agreement. For an opposition that's trying to get back into power, it doesn't look like the house is in order.
Well, I mean, it always looks like that from the outside in politics, but, politics is an engagement of conflict. I want to be president, Ibuka wants to be president, Risola also wants to be president, and, it's an engagement of conflict, basically. We all have those individual aspirations, but what PDP has proven over time is that it has always been able to manage conflicts and manage interest. The last time around, too, 2019, people felt, the party was going to be torn apart, but that did not happen eventually, because we would always come to a round table eventually. So I think that's also going to happen in 2023, and I think, it's a sign of a healthy party. You have to have people vying in that direction. Yeah. As for zoning, there are a lot of tendencies within the party, but I believe, at the end of the day, the most important thing is for somebody who can, somebody who will be able to challenge the APC and also provide solutions for the various problems facing Nigeria. I think that's the most important question that PDP needs to answer at this point.
Risola, same question to you, because the APC is not any better. Even with the price of nomination forms, we did see some members of the APC, some very vocal members, speak up against, what it costs. But talking about candidates, especially at the presidential level, we've seen very, very interesting declarations. Of course, most visible, of course, is Mr. Vice President and Ashiwaju, like you said, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who everybody has known to be allies, for want of a better word, seem to be running against each other at this point. How is the party looking? Because you want to hold on to power, like you've said, but things are not particularly looking great either.
First off, I would like to speak regarding a point Demola made earlier, talking about the fact that the cost of nomination forms would allow or would further godfatherism. And I think it's very key that we understand the fact that for you to vie for an office like the presidency, you must have built a network. And in advanced democracies, campaigns are crowdfunded right from the beginning till the very end. So it's not necessary, really, that the money that you use to get your form has to be personal funds. That's why I said earlier that there should be people rallying around you. I've run for office both within the party and at the general election, and both times I had people rally around me. I'm a young politician. I don't have a godfather. I'm not a godfather. So I think it's very important to correct that notion. Then regarding the question about our presidential aspirants. Asiwaju has a wonderful track record, former governor of Lagos State, national leader of the party. Prof has done his role well as vice president to the president, Muhammadu Buhari. We have quite a number of other people who have declared and others who have not declared yet, but whom we're expecting to come forward. And it's a normal thing in a democracy. The very nature of democracy calls for contest. And we'll get to the primaries, our delegates will vote, and whoever it is that emerges will enjoy support from all the different groups within the party. We had a lot of aspirants also for our convention. There was a lot of talk about how it might tear the party apart, but we're able to come and come together, to fall back together, and the party is forging ahead as one. So I believe the same thing will play out at the primaries. We've already decided that we'll be having the indirect primaries. There are statutory delegates, some new delegates will emerge. At the end of the day, the delegates will speak, with their votes, so they will speak through the ballot, and a presidential candidate will emerge. And I am very hopeful, contrary to what you said earlier about, whether the party is well placed to win the elections. I actually believe, I don't see anyone in the PDP at the moment that I think can give us a run for our money. So I'm actually quite confident that come 2023, Nigerians will return to the APC for the presidency and for a lot of positions also at the national and state levels.
The fact that across board, even not just with the APC now, we still don't seem to be making inroads with regards to women in politics. I'm looking at state elections, I'm looking at the federal. There's still nobody who jumps out at us. Why is that still happening? Why are we not there yet?
So I've done a lot of work in the gender space, both within the political system and in civil society. And one thing I will say is that we have a number of hurdles that we need to cross. So recently, the Federal High Court, the Federal High Court ruled that 35% affirmative action for women has to be abided by for appointed positions. And I think that's a huge landmark in Nigeria's democratic history. So for appointed positions going forward, and I'm quite hopeful that, we begin to abide by it when appointments are made. Now, when it comes to elective positions, we have a number of barriers in the paths of women. As I stated earlier, so there are internal party factors, horse trading and all of that sometimes that may not favor youth and women candidates, aspirants, that prevent them from emerging eventually. Also, we have the issue of societal factors in a couple of places where no matter how qualified a woman might be, people just will not support a female candidate for any position. And these are the issues that we need to deal with. The Honorable Minister for Women Affairs has done quite well during this tenure. We have female deputy local government officials. She's done a lot of work with getting women better represented in governance at the grassroots level. We need enabling policies at party level. Parties have done well by saying, oh, we are granting concessions to our women. The APC has done excellently well by saying women only have to pay for the expression of interest form, but that the nomination form will be free. But I think beyond just granting these concessions on the cost of nomination forms, we also need to have enabling policies that will ensure that women emerge as candidates. So the same way the courts have secured representation for women, with 35% affirmative action in appointed positions, I don't see any reason why our political parties cannot put their money where their mouth is when it comes to women's issues by actually saying a certain percentage of our tickets will go to women aspirants. There is no dearth of qualified women in any corner of this country. And I believe if our parties are actually really serious about ensuring that women are better represented, especially when it comes to elective positions, then they will do the needful.
Okay. Very final word now from Demola. The PDP has lost 2 elections in a row at the federal level. What is going to happen differently this time?
Well, I think 2023 is a different election because, the record of the All Progressive Congress in every sphere of the economy is, and, of life of Nigeria is quite obvious. PDP is not counting on that alone. The PDP is working aggressively and putting its best foot forward, basically, to ensure that we have a candidate who is able to campaign across the entire length and breadth of Nigeria and win. For young people, I think, they would have to look at the ASU strike currently ongoing and make their decision whether the APC is a better party for them to go with. And I think, no Nigerian is going to answer that in the affirmative. Also for women, as regards what Risola just mentioned, I'm happy to say that the People's Democratic Party has it enshrined in its constitution that, 35% of appointive and elective offices should be reserved for women. And so women are also a part of the base that we are appealing to in this forthcoming election. But I think, 2023 is going to be, it's a major crossroads for Nigerians. We should not focus just on the politics, but focus on the issues. It's sad that, zoning is the biggest issue presently, and I think it's a reflection of how APC has managed to divide the country so far. And that's why people are talking about zoning, whether it's coming to the south or staying in the north. Let us get back to the issues of the economy, the issues of education, the issues of the future of Nigeria itself. I think that is what's on the ballot in 2023.
Thank you very much, Demola. Thank you very much, Mr. Ola. Pretty confident from both of you, believing that you both will be taking the presidency in 2023. We'll definitely have you back a lot more over the course of the months to come. Thanks for joining us today. We'll take a quick break now and be right back. Please don't go away. All right, welcome back here. If you're just joining us, as you saw there, I have a special guest here in the house. He's an artist, rave of the moment, and I use rave there intentionally because his fans are called the ravers. Rema is here. How are you doing?
I'm good, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.
I want to start, honestly, with this Unilag thing because it's been very fascinating to me. Why did you decide to go back to school?
Because we learn every day, I feel like there are a couple of things life can teach you, and there are a couple of things, school can teach you, the course you go for, being around youths, it's a whole new energy, it's a whole new feel, and most especially because of my mom. Yeah.
What about her? She wanted you to go back?
Yeah, for sure. Every parent wants you to finish school. No matter how successful you get, at least just have that certificate. Yeah.
But the question has always been, how are you supposed to navigate this? Because you're touring the world, you're doing albums, you're performing on stage everywhere. Where does school fit in? I mean, when ASU strike, you get called off, because at this point you still have the free time, unfortunately.
Yes, sadly, like most decisions I make in my life, I will not say everything has a 100% plan. Sometimes I just go for it because I believe that I can do it, or however it turns out. Or sometimes I just try, at least try. Yeah, if I see it doesn't work out, I just stop. But if I see it works out, I move with it. But at least I try. That's strength,
So when school starts, you're going to figure it out somehow, is what you're saying?
I am.
What are you trying to study? What's the course?
Theater art.
Oh, theater arts. Oh, interesting. Well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I saw you begging ASU to open school so that you can go back.
Because I can't wait, most especially because I'm in town, and I'd really like to check in with school.
Is there a reason why Unilag?
Because I live here mostly.
Okay, so it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I saw some Uniben people there wondering why you didn't come back home today.
Yep.
How's music doing, man? I mean, you're doing amazing things. Are you surprised at where you are? For some people, it seems like a lot of things happen very quickly. In like a year, you had become Rema.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at how quickly things happened? Or you saw it coming?
I saw it coming spiritually. That's through my belief, in grace and favor. And
I mean, your name is divine.
Yeah. And the hard work I put in behind closed doors before I was unveiled. I would be lying if I say, I'm not surprised, but to an extent, I had expectations, and the only reason why I got really, really surprised is that, grace really surpassed my expectation.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And the people who think, people see that and think you're lucky. They try to tie the Maven story into it, how you were groomed and presented to the world.
Yeah.
Take us back to how this started. When did music start for you? When did you decide you were going to pursue music? Because I've seen somewhere where you said you wanted to do trap. That was your intention and all of that. But there's also a church story, I believe. When did this start, and when did you decide this was what you wanted to do?
In church.
Yeah.
Church made me decide to do music. I used to draw. I still draw, but at the point, I literally let my heart go with whatever works out, from back in the hood, you feel me? So music was working out. I was getting more ovation from music than drawing. So I was like, okay, if I spend more time on music, I guess I'll get more ovation, I'll get better at it, you feel me? It took a little bit of sacrifice because I had to pause one side of me to focus more on music. So yeah, it started from Church Christ Embassy, Benin City. They supported me, gave me advice on how to, curate my music properly to match, the crowd and the word of God and stuff like that. I also headed the Rap Nation in Christ Embassy at the point in time, inspired a lot of youths and, won a lot of souls to God. I did my service. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear winning souls from Rema, but go on.
Yeah. I feel like everywhere you find yourself in this world, you just have to serve. You feel me? I served. I did my time there, and I'm grateful for where I'm at still.
Was it weird for them? Because a lot of your lyrics now are not particularly, from there. Let me not mention, but I mean, is it weird? Was that transition weird for you or for them? And how did they feel about you now?
It was weird for me, and I feel like it was weird for them. I didn't really ask much about, how they felt about it. But for me, it was quite weird. Most especially to my mom, because, she's well known in the church. So I didn't really do much explaining. I just told her to trust me.
Yeah.
You feel me? Trust me. It's not like anything I'm singing about. It's not what people do behind closed doors. You feel me? It's just where life has drawn me towards, and I have to take the opportunity.
Yeah. Does she accept this, Rema?
Yes.
Or is still taking some convincing?
Oh no.
Yeah,
Even when she saw my tattoos, she's like, it's your decision, it's your life. But as long as you stick with the scrolls I've given you, and you don't like overdo it or like you go astray with whatever you're doing.
So you headed the Rap Nation, like you said, in church. You wanted to do trap.
Yeah.
This transition to what you do now, why did that happen, and when did that switch happen?
I was still in Benin when that switch happened, actually. A lot of people felt like, when I got, signed, I started like deviating or whatever. But no, actually, life was tough in Benin. And I'm not that guy to ask the people in church to pay me or whatever, because I'm doing God's work. As I said, I was serving. You feel me? But right there in Benin, I started going for competitions, going to bars, lounges, political rallies, just trying to get on the stage or hold a microphone to at least get sprayed some money to come back home and just feed my family, because we're going through tough times. I lost my dad, lost my brother. I needed to come through for my family. So at that point in time, I felt like that's where I started spacing out little by little until I just exiled.
Yeah.
When
did the Prince see you? What happened?
That was a huge transition, actually. I was in Benin. I got back from Ghana. I was in Benin, and it was a really boring Thursday, and I was just on IG, just scrolling around. Actually, I've done a lot of freestyles to a lot of popular songs of big artists and all, but I barely get reposted or like acknowledged. So I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, why not, instead of going for people who are like super popular in time or super hot in time, I just look for someone else, another artist, or at least that my voice can get to them. You feel me? So at that point, I just scrolled and I saw the Prince dropped a song with Davido, and I hopped in, and I called my producer at the time to make a beat, and to remake the beat, and then I just did a freestyle in my friend's car, and that was it for me.
And that was it.
I just tagged him, and he commented, he reposted, he DM'd me, and that was it for me.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. So you've been in the industry now for how long, officially? 4 years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, March 22nd made it.
It's been a very, very intense 3 years.
Yeah.
But you also came into the industry at a time when there seemed to be an explosion of a lot of young talent, you know.
Yeah.
Does that inspire you to work harder, or do you feel like you're at a level where you're not competing with anyone?
Oh, I was brought up with the mentality to work hard. Like, irrespective of competition or not, just work hard. Like, that's my motto. Like, when I wake up in the morning, like, even my homies around, like, I always ginger everybody to just work.
But you have to be looking at your side and behind you sometimes and wonder, these guys are hot.
Actually, you know, I'm actually happy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy when there's competition. You know, it pushes me to go harder. It pushes me to unlock some parts of my mind that, you know, being peaceful or being stable cannot unlock. Sometimes pressure pushes you to be hungry, you know, or to test yourself, you know, and that's it for me. And not just about me, but it's like an army. There's a statement I can make with my sound, and there are some statements I cannot make with my sound that someone has to make on behalf of the generation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where other guys come in, you know. They make that statement, you know, they collab with those artists that I know that maybe I cannot work with, but they can. So they're just helping the movement indirectly. So it doesn't have to be all about me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very interesting for a lot of us to see, as much as there's a healthy, you know, rivalry amongst all of you. A lot of you are doing great, and we don't seem to see any beefs, at least visibly, that we know of. How's that happening? You know, are you guys really as close as people think? I hope you are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes communication just makes us like question our friendship sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's understandable that everyone is busy.
Yeah.
But whenever we see each other, it's all love.
Yeah. Who would you like to work with? And I'm talking of amongst the new cats, like you guys call them.
Who would I like to work with?
That you haven't, probably.
Joe Boy.
Joe Boy.
On my leg. We actually talk, like we actually want to make it happen. It's just looking for the right song, the right beat, the right time, you know? Who else? Buju. I already work with Starboy Terry, I already work with Fireboy. I've worked with a lot of people. But yeah, I'm optimistic. There's no limitations for me. I feel like God has blessed me with the talent to sync with everybody's sound, and I'm that versatile. So.
Yeah. So you come across as very calm, and you don't necessarily talk a lot. But you also once in a while have your moments on Twitter. And I remember I don't know how recent though, but you said something about how, you know, when you started singing, people were calling your music Indian music or whatever it was. But now everybody seems to be jumping on that style. You know, what inspired you to do music the way you do? What was the inspiration? And what do you mean when you say people are jumping on it now and trying to, you know, copy, you know, the Rema style?
How it started, when I came to Maven, I was only doing trap, you know. I never really used to do Afrobeats. But the Prince put me onto Afrobeats, and you know, I started vibing to beats and stuff like that. I just started pushing myself because I didn't want to lose the opportunity. I was like, I have to bring something new to the table. So being around those OGs and learning that to make it out here, you have to bring something new to the table to join this movement. I had to search my inner self. And shout out to the producers with me at the time who are still with me. You know, we never saw a limitation. They kept pushing me to jump on the craziest beats, even some sounds that are super weird that might never come out, but I found it.
Yeah.
And everyone around me knew when I found something.
Yeah.
And it was distinctive, it was different. And we questioned ourselves if the world would accept it, but we're like, we don't care, let's just go.
Yeah.
And there it went, the Rema EP. It was obvious that it's something fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on it went on from there, and nothing has ever been, how would I put it? Nothing has ever been expected. I've always surpassed everyone's limitation in terms of sound. What's next for Rema? But yeah, with those great moves with sound, I also got, you know, a lot of criticisms.
Yeah.
You know, with the manner of my delivery, my melodic balance, you know, flow, beat pattern. Those things are picked out most especially by the fans, you know, and also by me, because I know how I deliver, I know how I flow, and you know. But when I hear it, surely I will speak on it. But I'm not speaking on it from a point where I'm like, hey, why are you guys doing it now? Nah, I'm
just letting them recognize.
Yeah, not just recognize. Actually, that shows that I'm making an influence. You know, that's a good thing. I don't see it as a bad thing. It's not like me. It's not like I'm trying to comfort people. I'm actually happy. You know, imagine being in the industry and you're not making any influence. Yes, you're making good music, but when you're making influence, that shows that you're a king, or you're a born king. You feel me? So, yeah, that's
plenty of confidence there. Well, congratulations, you have a new project out. It took you quite a while to get there. For a lot of us who had been waiting for this project to come out, what inspired this, and what story are you trying to tell with this album, very quickly?
Raven Roses is a stamp to this sound, to the Afro-Rave sound that I've been standing on for 3 years. You know, it's a gesture to seal the sound for good. And as the album grows, and when I say grow, because there's going to be a deluxe, and on and on and on, it's going to grow from there. It's just to seal our movement for the 3 years.
Yeah.
You feel me? It's a push towards a rave culture. It's a mind opener. It's a breath air. It's a fresh air to Afrobeat, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's streaming everywhere. If you haven't heard it yet, Raven Roses, like you said, is streaming across platforms. Before you go, I got a lot of DMs from your fans, and they said I have to ask you this question. That is very important, and they say you must answer.
All right.
That why did you post Ira Star on your Insta stories yesterday? Because it has thrown them into speculations. So explain yourself.
What speculations?
I don't know what. I'm telling you what your fans told me to ask you.
What speculations? What speculations rather than how being my label mates?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, we've been close friends. But yeah, let me use this medium to even shed some light on Ira Star. Ira Star is a really talented young lady. She's an amazing person. Personality, 100. You know, like whenever everywhere is dull, she's the life of the party. Like she brings the energy to the studio. She brings the energy to the party. She's the one. Like she's an awesome person. And I just feel like, you know, the internet or fame or stardom just like paints a kind of certain picture. Most especially like even me, like people who get to talk to me just realize that, oh wait, this guy is just a regular chill dude.
Yeah.
You know, but on the internet, everything seems quite serious and too perfect. But yeah, anybody I post on my story, female, male, I'm just actually appreciating that person.
So basically, you're saying
person.
If you were dating someone, you are not going to see the person.
Oh no, you guys are not going.
So
to
are you
see that
single?
Person. No, because like
You're not single.
Oh, single.
Are you single?
Oh yeah, I'm single.
Oh, okay.
But if I was dating, I would not share it to the world because I've seen a lot of relationships, the internet that's destroyed.
Is it hard to date now?
Very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you trying?
No, I'm not trying. I tried, but I've given up.
For how long?
Quite some time.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, man. I mean, the album is crazy.
Yeah.
Go stream this across all platforms. It's everywhere. Raven Roses.
Raven Roses.
Congratulations. And please don't keep us waiting for another 3 years.
I got you.
Before we get the next
Don't
one.
worry.
Thanks for joining us, man. We're going to take a break. I'll be right back. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Yes, as you can hear, I have a guest here with me. We're going to be talking investment, and for a lot of young people, or Nigerians as a whole, investment is very big now because the economy across the world is going through quite a beating, and everybody's trying to look for ways to make that extra buck. I have you with me, Adebayo Amzat, who's the GMD of Zcrest. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So tech is big now. Everybody's talking tech. There's so many acronyms. NFT. There's some people are even confused as to what all these things are. But looking at the future of the continent, or Nigeria in particular, let's talk Zcrest now. What are you doing at Zcrest, to sort of power investments for the average Nigerian? And what should Nigerians be looking at when you're talking investments at a time like this, where people cannot even seem to be able to save properly anymore? Yeah.
Okay, thanks for having me again on the show. So I think I would like to even pick from how we started Zcrest.
Yes.
All right. So I used to work in a bank more than a decade ago. And then we saw that for us to deepen these markets, we need to improve the presence of non-bank players in this space. And that's how we started. So what we call normal investments, traditional investments, stocks, fixed income, fixed deposits were the things that were going on then. And that's how we started. And as we developed as a business and we built more stuff, now we realize that we need to also provide avenues for other people to play in the same space. So we have an asset management business, all right? But all of this is still part of traditional investing. What is really investment, if you think about it? It's something you add value to, and then it gives you a stream of income over the years, right? And you have to look around you to see where you can solve problems. So in here, most of this tech investing is really about reorganizing what we already know as how we come together as a group of people to create value in the ecosystem, in our society. Our fathers used to go to the farm, they used to sell these products, they used to make money, they used to do all of this work. And now we're seeing that Africa as a continent is one that is driven largely by the informal sector. As much as 80% of the economic activity on the continent is informal. About $1 trillion in sales every year coming from the informal sector. And that figure is funny because if it is informal, then who is measuring? But around you, you see the signs of it. Despite all the innovations in technology, it is still a cash economy. In Lagos, you can see some improvement, but go down to all the nooks and crannies of the country, and then on the continent, you see that most of these things are still in cash and it's still informal sector. But even though this is how we run our continent, we can look to the West and see how much more efficiency we can gain. If we reorganize how we do our stuff, power it with more technology, more data-driven decisions, and a better way of doing things, and you can even unveil more value. I'll give you an example. One of the oldest industries in Nigeria is that of the middleman. Call them the distributors or the resellers. In the olden days, you used to see people who work as gathers for the big commodity companies, and they make so much money. So all of our big forefathers, that's what they were doing. And now we see it in today's world. You have people who call distributors in the market, people who buy from the manufacturers, and then they have these big shops at Okeari Market, and then they're selling to other retailers who would now sell to you and I. So that value chain is like 5 deep, 5 different players. So a lot of value is going on there, but the value it's almost like when you are boiling something and using a very bad pot. You are losing a lot of the heat rather than using it to cook. And then despite all of this value chain, the value is not being captured well because you see a retailer who's done so much transaction, he can't borrow from the bank because his transactions have not been well recorded. All right, so you see some startups come together to say, why don't we digitize this entire experience so that every part of the value chain is being captured, and then we can now present this data to lenders who can say, okay, now Mr. Kamaru does 1 billion of transactions every month. Now we see it. Now we can lend him more money. That will now increase his average order value. Yeah. You think of the average guy, cleaners, artisans, they do real work. They get real payments, real salaries, but it's not being recorded well. You and I, maybe in our olden days, we have pay slips, wages, we pay taxes. Very transparent. We can get a mortgage when the country gets there. We can get salary loans. But then the average carpenter cannot, because all his work is almost like he didn't do anything because there's no records of it. So you see some startups also digitizing that experience for even the average artisans to say, all your work, let's capture it on a record, and then we can do that. So you see that kind of reorganization going on around the ecosystem. And I think that is really what this investing thing is really all about.
So, sorry to cut you in there, because a lot of people wonder, what should I look out for if I want to, because you do a lot of early stage investing, you also, help a lot of startups. If I wanted to invest in a startup, what signs should I look out for, and on how viable a business can be as quickly as you can?
Correct. So the first things you must not do is what they call FOMO, fear of missing out. It's almost like when they come up with anything, there's a curve that happens. The price of a new asset goes far beyond the real value at that point in time, and you see it in everything, and that's what they call a bubble. So there's this new thing about crypto and the space. It will develop, but then that speculative bubble goes first. And then if you want to be a savvy investor, you have to first and foremost put that aside.
Yeah.
Look for value. Now, and there's no point to there's no need to overthink these things. For you to make a proper investment, what do you look out for? A viable business, something that has scalability, because if you are doing early stage investing, that is what is important. You want something that is not a lifestyle business. Lifestyle is anything that you just do to make cash flow year in, year out. But when you're talking about growth, you're looking for something that will start with 10 users and then grow to 1 million users. And as in theory, an unending market size.
Yeah.
So you want to see how big the market is. And sometimes it's not obvious. So it's something you have to just think about. What's your prognosis for this sector, for this industry over the next 10 years?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. Think of when we think of things like, let's say insurance, or no, let's say aftercare insurance. Then you can have your model and say, there are 1 billion plus people in Africa. Over the next 20 years, 20% of them would have grown old.
So there's still a lot more to capture.
So there's a lot more to capture. So that's like the sense.
I like that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask you, what sectors are you most excited about with regards to investments and growth on the continent now?
Yes. So it's cliche, but when I say fintech, people can misunderstand my intentions.
Yeah.
I'm a core finance person, so it may be, but that's not the affinity. The thing is, for every sector to develop, you see finance as the plumbings of that system. You know, if media develops, then what happens to media? You build new studios, you buy new machines, you hire more people, finance goes on, right? So you see that as every other sector develops, finance does 2x, you know, so normally the finance space is so heavy. And if you look at Nigeria, what makes an economy really work is credit, all right? But in Nigeria, in Africa, it's not yet happening. None of my staff, for example, has a mortgage. None of them got their car loan. None, right? But in the West, it's different. It's credit-driven. So there's still so many opportunities, so many unsolved problems. And to your first question about what do you look out for, in a sense, it is actually Africa is the easiest market to make money from when you invest, because literally we're just starting again. We're just building the blocks now. And I used to say this, that we're exactly where China was about 35 years ago. When the government of Deng left government, and then the entire renaissance started to happen, and that's exactly where we are. So you literally can just throw a dart, right, and you score well in Africa, because we're just essentially starting. And if you look at it, we're a very young population. 6% of our people are below 20. Over the same mathematics we talked about now, over the next 30 years, we are the ones that will now grow. Yeah. You know? So anything you do today now, you're almost guaranteed of a big market over the next 10 years.
Where can we find Zcrest?
Where can you find Zcrest?
Online?
Oh, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
We're popular in the space.
Social media?
Everywhere. We're everywhere.
So just look out for them if you need any advice.
No, we're everywhere.
On where to invest and make money.
Everywhere.
Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Ibuka.
And all the best with everything. But like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter. Rubbin Minds now is the handle. Please use the hashtag Rubbin Minds when you send us a message. I'll see you next Sunday.